Do you have a vintage receiver and are interested in using it as either a standalone preamp or a standalone amplifier and connect an external preamp or an external amplifier to the unit instead of using it just as an all-in-one receiver? If so, but you're not quite sure how to make those connections, I'm going to show you two ways in this video to make those connections. The first being how to connect your receiver to an external amplifier, and the second being how to connect it to an external preamp. Let's jump into that next. Now, not all vintage receivers can be used as a preamp only or a power amp only, so the first thing you need to do is turn your unit around and see if you have a preamp out connection and a power amp in connection. They are usually connected by a pair of jumpers or a pair of RCA cables if these jumpers have been lost over the years. Now, some vintage units will work without these. This Pioneer SX980 will not work unless these are included. Just a little random fact there. But let's connect the preamp on the 980 to this shit Yola horn amplifier up here, okay? First thing we want to do is remove the jumpers on the 980, and then we're going to take a pair of RCA cables and let's see here, connect those to preamp out like so, and then you're going to take the other end of your cables and run those to your amplifier input, just like that, okay? So at this point, we're now using the 980's preamp, and we're using the shit Yola horn as our speaker amp. So all of our sources will be hooked up to the 980 turntable. We'll be using it for volume control, tone control, all of that is here on the preamp. But we'll have our speakers connected to the Yola horn, and it will be powering the speakers. So this is how you use it just as a preamp, but let me take everything apart and I'll show you then how to use the Pioneer 980 as just the amplifier, and we're going to connect a preamp to it. Okay, let's set this up now as if you wanted to use the vintage receiver as an amplifier, but connect a different preamp to it. For this example, I'm using this Shit Saga Plus preamp right here. So basically, you're going to remove the jumpers like you did in the first example, and you're going to take your RCA cables and plug them into the power amp in. You're going to take the other end of those cables and you're going to connect those to the output of your preamp. So you are now using your preamp to connect your sources like a turntable, CD player, whatnot to it. You're using this for your volume control. It's sending the signal now to the vintage receiver, which you're simply using as an amplifier, and that is where you will connect your speakers. Well, that's how you make the connection to either an external preamp or amplifier with a vintage receiver. Oftentimes in the manuals of these receivers, they will also have this information. So feel free, if you have a vintage unit, to go find them online. Oftentimes they're free, and download that, and it will also show you a step-by-step guide there. I also have a blog that I wrote with photos showing you how to make these connections, and I'll include that link below in case you're interested in reading through that as well while you make these connections. Now, the unit that I used for this is a Pioneer SX980, and I actually bought that at my local record store, and at first I wasn't quite sure if I made a smart purchase or not. If you'd like to watch a video about the 980, you can do so by clicking here.